Welcome, welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. It's today we have another great opportunity to craft our lives again. Kind of Monday is that way for me. I start out, I record on Monday, so this, whether you're listening to this on a Thursday or a Friday, know that I recorded it on a Monday. So the beginning of the week is always an opportunity for me to renew, renew what I'm doing in crafting my life. I do a Monday mantra that I post on my social media page. And today, my mantra was color outside the lines every chance you get. Now, growing up, that was not ever part of my life and part of what I thought I should be doing. And when I stopped shooting all over myself, then I realized, there's a lot of beauty outside those lines. And all of us have experienced life in so many different ways that to share with others what's been happening in their life expands our horizon, our lessons, without having to live it, without having to go through all the trenches. We can learn from others. And so to that end, I've had my dear friend Lindsay Jepperson join us today. Lindsay, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
I'm just so happy to have you here because you have lived so much life at this young age. And this is in comparison to me. I'm 72 next month. But at this young age, you have lived a lot of life.
Yep.
And by sharing what you share on this podcast, when you speak, in your book, if it lifts the life of one person, I know you feel that that's been worth it. And that is your mission right now. So let's start with a little bit about how you see your life right now. And then I want to go back to kind of where your story begins.
Yeah. So I am a thriving mom of three kids. I'm married to the man of my dreams. I chose my first husband, and God chose my second husband, is what I tell everybody. He's just incredible, and we currently live just up in the Heber Valley. I'm a special education teacher. By day, I teach adults with disabilities. And I just love what I do, and I love shining the light. I'm now a published author of my book, and I am just letting God use it wherever He wants me to have it, whether that's speaking at the jail, whether that's doing a podcast, whether it's just talking to youth. I just am trying to let God use my story in the ways that He wants to.
I love that. Do you by chance have a copy of your book?
I do. Yep.
Let's hold that up.
Yep.
Okay.
It's called Adjusting Your Sails, Anchoring to God in the Storms of Life.
Adjusting your sails. I think that's probably one of the most profound lessons that all of us learn in this life is that, is your life anywhere today how you thought it would be when you were 18?
Never.
No.
Never.
No. So we thought we had one thing going. And what happens to life when you don't know how to adjust your sails? It's just one disappointment after another.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's take people. Now that we see you happy and joyous and mother and wife and living your best life, let's take people back to where your story kind of began.
Yeah.
And share that with us.
Yeah, so my story started out, I was a NICU baby. I ended up weighing 3 pounds, 2 ounces when I was born. So I came into this world as a fighter, and I will go out of this world as a fighter. And then just through trauma and life, I ended up being molested when I was 8 years old, and my whole life came crashing down around me. A couple months later, my parents got divorced, and through just my mom's choices and things like that, I ended up in foster care. And it was just a really dark journey. Lots of suicidal ideations, lots of suicide attempts in my teen years, and then I was able to go through Youth in Action through Utah County's justice system, and I went through the Youth in Action program and got emancipated when I was 15. And I just the judge, I told the judge if he sent me to another foster home that I would run away. I just told him I deserved a better chance and I didn't want to keep on getting hurt. And he totally agreed with my, the system is very broken and the system is very sad. And he saw potential in me that I couldn't see in myself. So I went through the Youth in Action program, but during that time, I had dropped out of high school and just made some pretty poor choices with friends. My friends were all in high school, and I decided to hang out with older people. And that's when I got introduced to drugs. There was a week that I just smoked marijuana, and it was just a thing. And I thought this was all it was ever going to be. Then it was pills. And then a week later, I had a needle in my arm. And
Wow.
it was just a
So
really
fast.
so fast. Yeah. It was a really slippery slope. And from there, I became a heroin addict. I loved the numbness of numbing out the reality of what I was living in my life. That I was, 15, 16 years old, living on my own. My family was carrying on without me, and I just couldn't cope with the trauma that had happened to me. And so for quite a while, I decided that drugs were the choice. And then after I lost 5 friends to black heroin in 1 week. And I used the same drugs that they used. I used the same dealer that they used. And sorry, it makes me emotional because
Yeah.
I sat there at the funerals and these moms just begged us to stop. And I thought, you know what? I deserve better than this. So I left a funeral one day and I went to the parking lot and I was going to get high. And I saw this sunflower, and I write about it in my book, but this sunflower like turned towards the sun. And I thought, oh my gosh, and I just begged God. I just begged him. I said, if I do this and I do the hard work, will you take care of me? Because I can't do this on my own. And I left there, threw my stuff out the window, and I drove to LDS Hospital and went through detox. And it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. But one of the best things. And, I'm 22 years clean of heroin, and I still have to choose every day to make
Yep.
that choice.
Yep.
It's still something that I struggle with, and I still go to therapy. I still ask for help. I still dive into my daily habits, making your bed, silly things that just people don't really see the impact of. And I do my work every day so I can be the best mom, the best wife, the best educator, but also for myself. I deserve this recovery. And I know that I'm here for a reason, and it's really hard to be here on this side. I still am losing friends to this day to addiction and to drugs. It's a plethora in Utah County. It's a plethora everywhere, but I mean, I could drive to Utah County and I could go to probably 10 houses and get what I wanted right now. And I just think that's really sad. I think that's a really sad thing. So that was part of my journey, was just coming through addiction. I was dating a gentleman at the time, and he asked me to marry him, and I got married at 18 years old. He joined the Navy, and we left. We moved to Whidbey Island, Washington, and it was the best thing I've ever done in my whole life. Just we got married on June 28th, and he left for Iraq on July 4th. So I was stuck on an island by myself with no other choice but to plug into meetings and plug into the military wife community that I was a part of. And I met incredible people while I was there. And again, I just had somebody see hope in me as a high school dropout, thought, hey, you deserve better than what you're doing. I'm going to pay for some college classes for you. And from there, I'm a high school dropout with a master's degree now. And I don't know. I loved school. I loved everything I did. And I fell in love with the classroom. I've always had a draw to people with special needs, but I knew after I saw the classroom that that's where I wanted to be. And I don't know, God's just taken me on this journey of just hope. And that's why I call my book Adjusting Your Cells, because throughout the storms of life, I've had to just pivot. And I think that's what we have to do sometimes. We can't just stay where we're at. I know it's hard sometimes, but I think we have to just pivot sometimes and adjust ourselves to the storms of life to thrive, and to be on the other side of it.
Wow. That is quite the story. And the fact that you're sitting here and I'm kind of adding up the years. You must be around 40.
Yeah, I'm 42.
Yeah. that that you're actually sitting here
Yeah.
alive and talking to me
Yes.
and now have accomplished these things in your life that not very long ago did not even seem feasible or possible.
Yep.
So let's go back.
Okay.
Let's go back to the beginning because I want you to know that people want to know the emotions and the how behind the story. So, and I know you expand on this in your book a lot. It's not what we're getting in this little, 40-minute podcast. But so when I first hear this, that your mom and then you had this, your dad was, were your mom and dad living in the home
My
together?
mom and dad were until they got separated and divorced, and then I lived with my
Okay.
mom and my stepfather.
Okay. And then at age 8, you had this child sexual abuse situation.
Yes.
Did it last a long time? Was it a
It
single?
was a single incident. It was a babysitter,
Ah,
and it just started. We were outside in the sprinklers, and he said, "It's time to bath." And I don't remember the rest of it from there. And I just remember, I don't know, like my childhood slipping away that day and things like that.
yeah.
And throughout my story, I bound on it a little bit, but my parents decided to have the church take care of it rather than the police. And basically,
Mm.
nothing happened. And so, whether that abuse continued to other people and things like that is something that I have kind of carried with me a lot of years. That because something wasn't taken care of the way that it should have been taken care of, that possibly other people were hurt and damaged in that.
Yeah. What do you feel like in your journey, Lindsay, has helped you move past that abuse that you experienced?
I think for me, the biggest thing that has helped me is having that relationship with a higher power. But also, I think just taking, not necessarily even taking action, but standing up for myself. There was a lot of times in the home as a child, you feel like you're out of control when Department of Child and Family Services is involved in your life. It kind of feels like the world is crashing down around you. It's always this like guessing game and when they're going to show up and when they're not. But after that abuse, I just remember just feeling so lonely and feeling that
Ah,
basic child adult relationship broken, you know? I think my parents didn't know what to do. Not that it wasn't uncommon. I remember after my abuse happened more with my stepfather after my mom got married to my stepfather. And I remember the first time I went to the Children's Justice Center. And not that I wish I would have had that experience when I was 8 years old, but I do wish I would have had that experience when I was 8 years old to report it to people that needed to be reported to. Um, and I think just being heard, not that I didn't feel heard by my parents, but when nothing happened and he still got to be free and be, a 15-year-old
yeah.
year old kid, it's kind of like, oh, okay, just nothing happened. It was a slap on the wrist or something that the church took care of. And like I said, even with my stepfather and stuff like that, nothing ever really happened. I don't remember jail time. I don't remember, it was like the people were taking care of it, adults were taking care of it. But in my world, I was still broken and I was still getting hurt. And so it just, I think for
Mm,
me, a lot of it, it was me taking care of me.
yeah. I hear that a lot from victims of childhood sexual abuse that particularly where we live in Utah and oftentimes the predominant religion, they feel like the church leaders want to take care of it inside the church and the family because I hear this, well, we don't want to ruin his life and we don't want to involve the police.
Mhm.
And yet you as a victim, it did make a difference in your life and you didn't just get to go on with your normal life. It changed you forever.
Forever. Yep.
And oftentimes victims, especially at that age, feel that they don't have a voice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. And I think it's really scary. I mean, I think even for me to tell my parents, it was very scary and very
Oh, yeah.
vulnerable. And I felt like I did something wrong. I felt like I was the one that did something that I wasn't supposed to do, or
Yeah.
things like that. And the more I've learned about my trauma and the more I've learned about sexual abuse and the different ways that the churches have over, just not taking care of it, like you said, like not ruining their life and doing that. But at the end of the day, it's like, what about me?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about,
It ruined
I don't,
my life.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And there's that thought with a childhood sexual abuse that, oh, they'll just get over it. I mean, they're young. It won't bother them when they grow up. They'll grow. And have learned now from studies and statistics and all sorts of things is that children don't just get over it.
yeah,
It affects them for the rest of their life. I mean, I work a lot with Sapria. That's what their organization's about. Generation All, that's what they're doing. The Elizabeth Smart Foundation, all those people. And I see this again and again, that it's swept under the rug as they'll get over it. They're just young.
yeah.
And it affects you. So after that, going into the Utah foster care system, and I think this is the foster care system problem really throughout our country, that it's broken.
Very broken.
And what would you say are some of the pieces of why it's broken and the damage that's happening there?
I think a lot of it is the overwhelming amount of people and kids that are in the system, but I also feel like nobody's trying to fix these situations. Like if you're in a home and Department of Child and Family Services is involved, they remove the kids. And sometimes I don't feel like that's the right thing to do. Remove the person that is being the problem or the abuser or something like that. And I just remember being in the system and I felt like a number. I felt like a number to somebody. I had some great I had a great guardian ad litem when I got emancipated. And I thank God every day for my judge and for my guardian ad litem for fighting for me. But also, I had that voice. I was the one saying, I'm not going to another home. And if you send me somewhere, I'm going to run away again. Because after some foster placements that I had, I ended up at Vantage Point down in Provo. It's a runaway shelter for at-risk kids. And I felt like, why am I in a jail? I'm on this level system in this place because somebody's sexually abusing me and beating the crap out of me. Like it wasn't fair, to have I was the one that was in trouble. I was the one living in the system and doing all of that. But I think just a lot of it is just the amount of people, but I also think it's the education around it, that people just aren't helping break these cycles of these systems that are in place, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's sexual abuse, whether it's drug use and things like that. I just think they just, like you said, they're sweeping things under the rug rather than addressing the real problem and really helping people, figure out what it is. I remember, and this is something that I had a really hard time with, is that we were on church welfare and we always lived off church welfare. And I remember if we didn't go to church, we didn't get church welfare. And I thought, how is this? Like, I don't know. As an
Yeah.
adult now, I can't even imagine trying to feed my own kids. And because I don't go to church, I don't get these options and all that. And whether that was real or fake in my life, that's what it felt like to me. I couldn't go to the bishop's warehouse if I didn't go to church and I didn't go with my parents and didn't pretend like everything was just fine. And that's the hard thing, is just putting on this facade. And that's something that I've always had and I'm very proud of myself for, is I've always had a voice. I've always had a voice. It got me in trouble a lot, but I've always had a voice to speak up and be like, this isn't right. Why is this happening? And like I said, it got me in trouble a lot of the time, but it also got me where I am today because I didn't take their answers at face value.
And you mentioned that that same issue of having a voice when I asked you about how you overcame your first childhood sexual abuse, you said, I stood up. I stood up and I used my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you think we go about empowering children, young adults to find their voice, to use their voice?
I think by being who we are. I think, Mary, what you're doing and what I'm doing, just showing people that they can talk about these things and it's okay. It's okay to talk about these things and it's okay to tell your truths and not live with that shame and burden. One of the biggest things with my book, and sorry, it is just, I was in the restroom at church and I had a 74-year-old lady come in the restroom and she said, because of your book, I told my husband I was sexually abused when she was younger. And I thought, oh my gosh. And she said she had carried that for 74 years.
Oh
She'd been
my
married
gosh.
for 50 years and never told her husband that she was abused. And I just, like, again, like you said at the beginning of the podcast, if I can help one person, if I can help one person have a voice and just say, me too. I don't care what your trauma is. I don't care what your thing is. For you to be able to say, me too, like that sucked and that was really hard, you know? And I just think that that's something that people need. But I also think these resources, these groups that you've talked about and things like that, I love it. I love seeing that people are having a voice. What Elizabeth Smart is doing after the trauma that she endured,
Right.
I'm like, good for you because it's not going to be one person. It's going to be thousands of people that she helps because she is standing up for what happened to her. And so I think a lot of it comes from within, but I also feel like we can't keep living in this society where we keep on letting stuff like this happen and it be okay. We need to give these kids a voice. We need to give these adults, these older ladies, I don't care who you are, you should have the ability to share your truths.
So one thing I learned at a meeting with Supriya, that
Hmm.
is, against the childhood, working on childhood sexual abuse, both the end where you have a survivor and how to thrive, and the prevention. But the average age of a woman coming forth and telling about her childhood sexual abuse, do you know what it is, Lindsay? It
I assume it's probably in the 40s.
54.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Does not that just blow your mind to
Yeah.
think that these people
Yeah.
have
Are
lived the
carrying that.
majority of their life
Hmm.
and how they've carried it? And not only them, because you know that if the mom is carrying it,
Hmm.
the children are carrying it. The spouse is carrying it. The parents, the grandparents are carrying it. The school is carrying it. What affects one affects us all.
Yes.
We are all in the middle of this society, which we can stand up and say, this is not working very well. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a large part of it, Lindsay, is because we are habitually hiding trauma.
Hmm.
And if we can give those people a voice before they're 54, look at you. You're
Yes.
42 and your voice is huge. You wrote a book.
Yeah.
And you're speaking, you're doing all these things. You're empowering so many people to have the courage to stand up.
Yeah.
I think that's
And
go ahead.
yeah. Well, and I just hope even if it's a bathroom conversation, that was a weight that that woman had carried for so long. And like, I don't care if that's where it happens, as long as it happens, like you said, and just to be a trauma survivor and to carry that and that shame and that guilt and all of those things for 54 years, I can't even imagine. I can't
Yeah.
even imagine having to carry that.
It's so heavy,
Yeah.
so heavy. So let's talk a little bit about the drug use.
Hmm.
That's another thing that we like to look the other way from. And particularly when they're in their youth, they'll grow out of it, that kind of thing. But I think now we have woken up to the fact that you don't just get over drug abuse.
No.
You This is a huge issue for everywhere in our country. But you mentioned, which was interesting to me, you mentioned, I know just where to get this today. And that every single day I wake up, I deal with it. If I experience, and people don't understand what you mean by that. I know what you mean because I've experienced that with an eating disorder. And, at that one point of being 284 pounds, when I finally decided I don't want to live this way anymore. But even today, I know where the good stuff is.
Yep.
I know where 7-Eleven is. I know where the grocery store is. I know where my fridge is. I know where the secret stuff is kept.
Yep.
And every day you have to make a choice. Not today. That's not for me today. And the same with you. A trauma comes into your life, just a brief thing in the day, blip, blip, maybe some disappointment, maybe something, a memory came to you of something, your heart weighed heavy with a piece. And there's that moment of, this could all go away. I wouldn't have to feel this if I just could get a shot.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's a daily choice. I have lots of really good grounding habits that I do daily. And like I mentioned, making your bed. I have practiced Miracle Morning for over 10 years. And it's my grounding things that if I don't, not necessarily if I don't do them, I have a bad day, but also I struggle. I struggle with whatever it may be that comes my way. And the fact that I could drive 60 minutes and get that numbing out is scary. It's
Yeah.
it's really scary to do that. But I think one of the biggest things that grounds me in doing that is just the freedom of not having that addiction hold me anymore.
Yeah.
I think just going through detox, for those of you that have gone through it or struggled with any type of addiction and things like that, once you're on the other side of it, you see things in such a different light, even from an eating disorder. I also struggle with bulimia, so I understand where you're coming from. And so I think just figuring out what works for you and those things that help you tick in the way that you need to tick, I think are important. I love your working out and your things that you've done and all that. For me, that's the same. I like to run, I like to walk, I like to lift. I like to get those endorphins in a different way than I've ever had before. But also, I am breaking generational curses, like generational habits. And I am. And I think just making those choices every day by being a different mom, being a different wife, being a different friend, just being a different community member. I'm showing up in a way that I'm helping other people, but at the end of the day, I'm helping myself by breaking these cycles and not being a part of the system and not being a part of the addiction death rate and things like that. I just think it's hard, but it's a daily choice. But so is being sober from alcohol and
Yep.
smoking and
Yep.
soda and food and whatever you want it to be, sex, whatever it's going to be. You have a choice every single day. And it's black and white. And a lot of people don't think it's that easy, but it is. It's every single day you have to choose that. And yeah, it's a lot easier at 22 years to not choose heroin. But just like you said, that blip comes into my life, and the first thing I think of is, guess what? I could
Yep.
numb out from this right now
Yep. This
and
does
not
not
have
have
to
to
deal
be
with
here. I don't have to feel this pain.
it. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
You're a
I think
very
it's a
strong
choice.
woman.
Yeah. And I don't know. And I think a lot of it is, again, asking for help. On those days that I struggle, I ask my husband not to leave me. I ask him to drive me. I ask him to be around me. I surround myself with people that I love, or I text somebody and just say, hey, I'm struggling today. Like, today is a hard day and I need a little bit more support. I need your prayers. I need your energy. I need something. And I think that's something in our society that as women, we don't do enough of.
Right. We're getting better.
Yes.
I mean, we see that in my social media feed that there are a lot of people who are are creating those kind of safe places for women, which we didn't have when I was growing up. That was unheard of. When I was in my 40s, never thought about going to a woman's support group. When I was in my 50s, I had a lot of friends, but not friends that I would just call up and say, would you spend the afternoon with me? Creating those kind of support groups now has become more the norm than the exception.
Yeah.
But I question whether sometimes we're involved because we see it as the thing to do now, the in thing, the acceptable, oh yeah, I went to my sound bath, that kind of thing. Or are we really stepping into the healing aspect of it? And so sometimes I really want to be the voice of wake up that say, this is more than just a fun thing to do for the day. This becomes a lifestyle of walking through life with our eyes wide open, experiencing the pain that comes with life, but then rejoicing in that I have felt this pain, so I understand my struggle. I understand your struggle. And these are the tools I have to walk out.
Yeah.
What would you say have become your greatest tools in walking out?
Prayer and journaling. I journal my prayers. I have for over 15 years.
Tell me what
But
that means. You write down what you're
I
praying?
write down my prayers. So I struggle with ADHD, and for some reason, it is so much easier for me to write out my prayers and to stay on track rather than being like, oh, I just heard the laundry go off. Oh,
I never
all those
even thought of that. That's a great
but
idea.
I journal my prayers, and it has been very powerful to look back at my prayers over the years. But like I said, I practice Miracle Morning. For those of you that don't know, it is these savers. It includes silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing every day, whether it's 1 minute or 20 minutes of it. It's something that's a part of my day. And I know it sounds silly, but make your bed. I don't know. For some reason, they teach you that in the military. They teach you that in jail. They teach you that in a lot of societies. It's just a respect for yourself, for your body, for your home. And those are the things that have helped me the most. But also, the biggest thing that has helped me is never stop growing. Like, even when I was writing my book, now that I'm a published author, even though I'm speaking, I always am a steward of learning more. And I think there's so many great books, podcasts, journals. I mean, you can find so many things, but the biggest thing is you have to do it. You have to do the hard stuff sometimes. And that's hard, but it's worth it in the end if you can heal.
Yeah. Yeah. We can do hard things. That's probably the greatest lesson that I've ever taught myself. Hey, you can do hard things because I didn't believe I could. I literally did not believe that that was in me to do hard things, that I just would choose the easiest route always, the safest route. But I can do hard things. And there are so many tools out there. I love your miracle mornings. That's, for me, I have a routine in the morning as well. And it's not exactly like that, but it's similar to that in that I do make my bed before I leave my bedroom. I do allow myself to go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
just to brush my hair, to, put a robe on my, whatever. But I kind of have this rule. Don't leave the bedroom until the bed is made. And I've learned that over the years that when I used to leave the bedroom and think, oh, I'll come back later and make that bed, walking back into that room with the bed unmade took a bit of energy right out of me and sucked me down. First it said, you loser, you didn't even have what it took to make your bed.
Yep.
And then it would be like, oh, I have to take time to make my bed. That put me behind. I mean, it just says so much about me. And you cannot create peace in chaos.
Nope.
And now every day when I walk in my bedroom, that bed is made. I'm just like, you got this, girl. You made your bed this morning.
Yep.
It's a simple thing, Lindsay. It's so powerful.
But if it's the hardest thing you do in a day is to make your bed, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. I'm proud of you. You did it, and that's all that matters. And maybe it's something else you do, and maybe it's another thing. But I just think as women, and especially as a mom now, I just think we don't give ourselves enough credit for the little things that we do that really add up.
Yeah. We that's for sure. And especially if those who are either in what they consider a lockdown career with not a lot of growth,
Hmm.
or if you're in a mom situation where I just got to endure this kind of a thing.
Yep.
We don't see the joy in what we're doing every single day. What is bringing you the greatest joy right now, Lindsay?
My kids for sure. It's been a really weird stage for me. My daughter, having her be the age I was when my first trauma started, and then my son being 15 when I got emancipated. It's just a whole nother journey to be with my kids and
Yes.
live this life with them, and to see the pure innocence of my daughter. I always get super overwhelmed looking at her. Just the things she's worried about are her horse and what she's going to play with the next day. And I just love it. I love every minute of it. My 15-year-old son is working and worried about high school and things that 15-year-olds should be worried about. And my 12-year-old, like if he could mountain bike and dirt bike all day long, his life is. And so that is where my joy has been. But the little things that have been helping me are some of that inner child work too, like doing things that I enjoy. I've been swinging. I know that sounds really silly, but like
No.
at the swing set, I've been painting. I have been reading books that aren't professional development books. Um, and just being. My front porch is my safe haven, and I literally just sit out there. I have popsicles with my kids. I just sit there, and I'm so grateful that my home is that sanctuary for my kids, but not only for my kids, for their friends, for other people. So that's what's bringing me joy right now is just being there.
I love that because it's those simple joys that are
Hmm.
bringing us such joy.
Hmm.
It's not the big grandiose things. No, having gone through my career and I look at that glass case full of all those awards, they mean nothing now. Not one person I could call up and say, what award did I receive in 2007? La, 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 la. No one would know and no one would care.
Hmm.
But if I called up a friend and said, what did I recently do that made a big difference in my life and the lives of so many others? They would say, you went to Ukraine.
Yeah.
That's the lesson I learned on Kilimanjaro when I screamed at the mountain that was making life so tough for me. I'm like,
Hmm.
you don't know who I am. I'm Mary Crafts. And in Utah, they think I'm a badass. They think I'm really special. And you're just making this so hard on me, you know. And the mountain said back to me, it spoke and said, I don't care. I don't care about anything that's back there. It only matters to me what you bring today.
Yep.
And I hiked on. I was going to bring my very best. And that's still the phrase that inspires me every single day. I'm bringing my very best today,
Hmm.
whatever that looks like today. It may not be as good as the day I summited Kilimanjaro, may not be as good as the day I received this or that day of my first child, but whatever it is, it's my best today.
Yep.
I've adjusted my sails.
Yep.
Lindsay, where can we find your book?
It's on Amazon. You can look it up on Amazon and it will pop right up at the top of your feed. There's a Kindle version and a book version and hopefully a audio version
Audible.
soon,
Yeah.
Audible soon. Everybody keeps asking me, so
Yeah,
working on
yeah.
that. But yeah, and you can find me on social media just at Lindsay Jepperson, or I have an Adjusting Your Sales page on Instagram. And I just, yeah, I would love to serve whoever needs served and be there for whoever needs it. But like you said, you talked about at the beginning, coloring outside the lines. And I think, just like you said, adjusting ourselves, it can be really small and it makes a huge impact.
Right. The rudder is pretty small, and a little turn changes your direction drastically. We're going to include at the end of this podcast, to my dear listeners, all these links for Lindsay. We're going to include her book link on Amazon, how to follow her on social media, and anything else that she would like to include so you can continue to follow her, connect with her. I know, Lindsay, you love to speak to groups and all those different things. If people are looking for a great motivational speaker, I've, I'm kind of shying away from the word motivational speaker. And I'll share with you why. For me, a
Okay.
motivational speaker is something that I go listen to, I feel really gung ho about, and then afterwards I probably do nothing. But an
Yep.
inspirational speaker, someone that inspires me deep in my heart and can motivate the change, that's what I aspire to be. And I think that's what you are. You're an inspiration. You're an inspirational speaker. You're inspiring others to do their very best, to live their best life. And that's why I admire you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Mary. And that's my last question in my book. How can you adjust your cells today? How can
Yeah.
you adjust your cells today?
Well, let's see. My sales today. I looked at my calendar this morning and I have it pretty lined out what I'm doing today. But because you have asked me that question, I'm going to go back and make sure that I insert someplace that I know I can give a kind act today that's unexpected.
I love it.
And that's how I'm adjusting today.
I love it.
So thank you for that inspiration.
You're so welcome.
Thank you for being with us here today on Crafting a Meaningful Life. And Lindsay's journey is so powerful. I hope you follow up with her, buy her book soon on Audible. If you're only an Audible listener, I used to read a dozen books a year, and now I started looking, I was like reading two or three. And so I've gone to Audible now. Now I'm listening to 24 books a year and still reading two or three, but it's really put me back on really enjoying all those things. And you can connect with her on social media. I love to watch Lindsay and live her life full of joy. Thanks for being with us. And thank you for sharing your story, your courage.
Thank you, Mary.
And to everyone, namaste. I see the divine in you.
Crafting a Meaningful Life.